It is Sunday on the Breakfast Club, and I am Serious Mind. There's been a lot of talk over the last few years, really, about how partisan things have become and how it continues to get ratcheted up and gets worse and worse. And there's certainly a lot of truth to that, and I've talked about that here. Of late, there have been some big events, big discussions going on in the community, the so-called great debate, skeptic, whatever you want to call it, community. And I'm not going to address any of them specifically. You all know what they are, and I'm going to continue my goal of staying largely impersonal on these, and just kind of speak broadly. But really, the two big issues that come up are: should you engage with people who you have a radically different position on? And if so, how do you do it? And, well, the easy and short answer is yes, if your goal is to change minds. If that's not your goal, then really you're under no obligation to talk to anybody about anything. And if you want to change minds, even there, there's other ways to do that. You can do that by proxy. You can, because we have these discussions not only with people who disagree with us radically, but within, our in-group, whatever group or groups that we belong to, there's always these discussions about, what is our position? What should our position be? How do we express that position toward people who disagree? And I would say, as far as partisanship goes, that's something has gotten quite a bit worse in recent days. Meaning the last 2-3 years, where even within group, small discrepancies becoming large and creating all sorts of friction. And I see that all across the spectrum. Some rather comical ones of late, and I'm not going to get into them. You know what they are. So the thing is, yes, if you want to change minds at some level, you need to engage with people who disagree with you, or get someone else to do it for you if you're not good at that. Because not everybody's good at engaging in discussions or debates. Personally, I prefer discussions. I think debates are largely mental masturbation. People who go into debates, first off, unless you are actually trained in how debates work and the rules, and also the rules of logic and all that kind of stuff and argument, most things that we have on the web are not really debates. They're pseudo debates by people who are playing at it. And those aren't really that good, because you have people who aren't as prepared, or very often one side won't be that prepared, or sometimes both sides aren't really well prepared. And even in the formal debates where it's done properly, usually what you end up with is the people leave with whatever opinion they had when they started, and they think that the side they're on won for the most part. There's some exceptions. There's room at the margins for change, but generally speaking, that's not what really happens. So, but discussions can change minds, and I've been in discussions where I've changed minds, and I've had my mind changed, and I've seen other people change other people's minds. So it can be done if the parties involved are willing and able to have a meaningful and honest discussion. See, I hear a lot of people call for that, but very often I see people who really are not credible, who are dishonest fundamentally, and I'm not talking about just making mistakes. We all will make errors. We'll all have, any of us can, push a position too far and kind of stray into kind of shady territory at times. But people who do this routinely for one effect or another, it's a lot harder to address them. And my feeling really is, other than to call them out on their lack of integrity, I don't really like to engage with them because I don't think there's really anything to be gained. It doesn't matter what evidence you give to somebody like that, they will rebuff it. They'll make up things on the spot to dispute it, and unless you have encountered their particular lie, and you're ready to counter it, and even there, some people are just really good at lying and they'll lie on their feet. So, you really can't have an honest discussion with someone who's not honest. And there is a danger if you engage somebody like that, because in a way you are giving them some level of credibility. If you just look at what's going on right now with the Alex Jones and Megyn Kelly interview, there's a big kerfuffle about that, which just kind of illustrates the point. So, and some people felt about the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate that Bill Nye was unknowingly or unwittingly or unintentionally giving some credibility to Ken Ham, a known liar. So, in my opinion. So that's the thing, is you really have to choose who you want to engage with and under what circumstances. And that doesn't mean you don't necessarily will never talk to somebody who you disagree with radically, because there are, again, you can kind of speak to a different audience. You're talking to person A, but you're really going for the people in the margins that could be swayed either way. And there's value there. But not everybody's going to want to do that, and no one's obligated to do that. So, free speech doesn't require anybody to listen to you. So, I would say, if you are of a mind to try to change minds and you want to address people who disagree with you, even radically, that's good, in principle. But, and make sure that you have realistic expectations. And if the other person isn't going to be honest, be prepared for what they're going to say, and be prepared to counter it, and be prepared to call them out on it. I think sometimes that's the best you can really hope for. But to me, I hear this chestnut of that, you won't talk to someone that you disagree with, for simple disagreement. And I think some of it's kind of funny that somebody will call it a simple disagreement, like, you don't think I should be allowed to exist, or that you don't think I should be able to live where I do, or have the job I do, or something else that's fundamental about just living. You don't think I should have fundamental rights or the same rights as you. That's not a simple disagreement, and I'm not really inclined to hear them out, as they say. There's certain arguments we already had. If someone tells me that slavery is justified, I'm not going to hear them out. We already did. We had a war all over that a long time ago, and as a society, we for the most part came to the conclusion that it wasn't so hot. Then same thing with the Holocaust. If you're a Holocaust denier, or if you think the Holocaust was really good, I don't really think that I need to listen to what you have to say. You might make a few points here and there on the margins that might be true, but they're kind of, they're very often non sequiturs, like the people who say, well, some of the people who engaged in the slave trade were black, which is completely true and irrelevant to whether or not slavery was immoral. So that's my admonition. And particularly, and again, you'll know who I'm talking about, but when somebody comes onto a channel and they will, on the one hand, acknowledge that there's problems on both sides, or all sides of all fences, and try to make it seem, this is another tactic that people will use, because they're trying to make themselves seem noble and seem open and honest, and maybe even a little vulnerable. But really, when you listen further, you realize their real intent is they're using that as cover so that they can slag off the other side. And they won't, after the initial acknowledgement that there's problems on their side, they won't at all acknowledge what those problems are. They'll just say they exist in kind of in a broad sense, and just use that again as cover to kind of attack the other side, with impunity. So again, that's somebody I really wouldn't want to engage too much, other than to call them out and tell them that I think they're fundamentally dishonest. So that's my opinion. You can agree or disagree, and I may pay attention if you actually say it or say something worthwhile and you actually have some credibility. Got That Funk, I think, is up next, and I'm sure he'll have some amazing things to say as always. And I will catch you next time. Take care.